Welcome to Inherently Distinctive.
Welcome to Inherently Distinctive with attorney Mark Goodman. Mark's practice focuses on patent law, trademark law, copyright law, and business law as related to innovation. I'm your host, Sophia Morales, and today's episode is Scam Alert: How to Spot and Avoid IP Fraudsters. Welcome, Mark. I'm so happy to have you here with us
Oh,
today.
it's thrilled to be here. Excited to get
Oh,
started.
yeah, me too. I think most of us have received an email from some Nigerian prince telling us we're in for a lot of money if only we give them a little bit. But
Yeah.
what are some of the common scams that target inventors or small business owners in the IP space?
So it's almost like a subset of these types of Nigerian scams possibly that's going on. And it's just very, very rampant. Like, I have to tell you that I get almost every month or two, every other month, at least one email from a client. Oh, I got this. What is going on? And then I have to tell them that it's a scam. And that's
Mhm.
part of why I'm really excited to record this episode, because then I can very easily say, okay, here's a link to the episode where we talk about these awful scams, and it'll be a shortcut for me, right? Plus, it's a great
Exactly.
public service announcement, if you will,
Yeah.
in this space. And so there's a few different variations of this, but the big culprit, it's worse in trademark than patent, although there's people that are going for patent. The reason why trademark is so bad is because when you file a trademark application, the applicant's contact information becomes public, right? Now, of
Yeah.
course, you can use like a business address. You could use a P.O. box as long as you provide the trademark office with your own address. So there's different things you could do there, but you do provide an email address and so forth. And so it's just this huge database for scammers to try to go after people. And there's some basic different things that can happen. One of the things that you see a lot is you just see something and it's just, I'm pulling up one of these
Yeah.
awful
Show it to us.
things that we have here, right? It's something that, and this is the most common I see, which is it has this like logo and it says WTP. Seems all official, right?
Yeah.
And it has your address, and then it even has a reference number, your application date, the application number, the classes, it has like all the right information for your trademark application. Because guess what? All this stuff's public
It's all
information once
public.
you file.
Exactly. But it
It's
looks
not
like
like,
they've got the inside track.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then it says in the middle of this, reproduction of trademark, and then it'll have your trademark, whatever you applied for, right?
Right.
So it looks like very kind of official here. And
Yeah.
then
They went to a little bit of effort.
it says publication fee, $1,380 US. Additional tax, zero. That's good. Total fee, $1,380. Please pay this amount on acceptance. Within 10 days by check. Please don't forget to quote the reference number, and they give you a reference number. And then they say payment by check, make it payable to this. And then, you've got this fine print that says, dear Madam or Sir, the publication of the public registration of trademarks is the basis of our offer. Okay. In the
Offer.
fine
Oh,
print,
ding, 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 ding,
make it
ding. Red
clear
flag.
they are offering a service to you,
Ah,
right? This is not, but this looks like
but up
what
to that
happens is,
point, it sounded pretty legit.
it looks like the trademark office is billing.
Yeah.
That's all my clients are thinking. They're like, Goodman, I thought we paid these fees.
Yeah.
Do we owe this, right? Or what's going on? And I have to say, no, this is totally a scam. When we look at it now, charitably, this is an offer for something that you don't need. But
Right.
I think I would consider it a scam, honestly, right? But because here's what they're saying. They're saying, we offer you the registration of your brand in our private database at www.wtp-register.com. Our
Their
offer is accepted with the
private
payment.
database. Yes.
Our offer is accepted with the payment of the entire publication fee and becomes binding contract between you and WTP. Contract irrevocable and legally binding for 3 years, starting with your payment. Now, they actually can, and please note, this is a private publication, not linked to the publication of the official notifications. It's not a registration of government organizations, and we do not have a business relationship yet. This is an offer for entry into our database at this thing. It's not an invoice. You're not required to pay the above amount unless you accept this offer. All further details are given in our general terms, and they have says. And this is why these people can be so persistent, because I'm not sure you could like criminally prosecute, right?
Yeah.
Because although I kind of think you probably should be able to, but when you think about it, they're being very honest, albeit in the fine print in the corner.
Yeah, they're expecting that you won't read the fine print.
This is an offer for a service, but this happens to be a service that you flat out do not need. It has no value whatsoever. Okay, because we can publish your brand in this registration. Well, I just explained the trademark office is public information as soon as you file. You do not need to publish it with anyone else and pay them $1,380.
Exactly. You're already published where it counts.
And so from a scam point of view, I could see a prosecutor, and I'm not a criminal lawyer, saying, hey, you guys know very well what you're doing. You're tricking people into just thinking that they need to do this for their trademark and sending in a check. And I'm sure enough people do that these people can persist, and God knows how much money they're making doing this, right?
Well, I'm sure the FTC would love to get a hold of something like that.
Right, I would hope so. But I could see them tying it up in court. It's like, well, look at our document. We explain exactly what we're doing, and we actually did publish the brand in this thing.
Yeah,
so they're actually
in that 9-point type at the bottom, right?
They're doing what they say they're going to do. So they could argue it's not a scam. We're doing what we said we're going to do. It just so happens that what they're doing is utterly worthless.
Yeah.
And that's where you get tripped up. And so
and they sort of come on like they're official somehow.
Right. Yeah. It looks official. It's got like WTP, like what is that? The World Trademark Publication, I think, is what they're standing for. Whatever, right?
Yeah. Okay. So this is like slimy offer category.
And it looks like an invoice, and so people get scared. Well, if I don't pay this,
what's going to happen?
My trademark, or something bad's going to happen. And here's the thing: for trademarks, whenever we file a document, we file an application. If I'm filing it for you, the fees automatically hit my business credit card, and that's just part of the fee you pay me. It's just kind of a wash that way, right? When you do that. Now, it's more dangerous for folks that are doing the trademark on their own because they can more easily be confused, because at least I usually kind of get blamed. It's like, Goodman, you didn't pay the fees.
You said you were doing this. Yeah.
You said you were taking care of this, right? And then I have to know this is just another scam, guys. And then they go, oh, okay, that's cool. Right. So they at least I can kind of take the blame, if you will, a little bit, because people go, wait a minute. And they always at least go to me because
there's a backstop there. Yeah.
But I think these people are probably making more money off of. But even then, I've had a few clients that almost wrote the check. That's why, like I said, I want everybody to listen to this episode or watch it. If you have a trademark application or patent. And so, this is, like I said, the most common one. And it's also, in a way, the slimiest one because it's arguably not a scam, although I'd say it's a scam for sure. And key things to be thinking about is just if you get something if you have an attorney at the trademark office, okay, the attorney gets all the information, or in certain cases, the client and the attorney will both be copied. But if you're just getting something randomly in the mail or email from some other party and I'm not copied in or whatever, then you got to be very suspicious about it.
Yeah.
Okay?
So is this kind of typical of how these fake trademark renewal notices and invoices typically work?
Yeah, I mean, they're doing a number of different things. They're just making something look official and make it seem like there's some urgency. If you don't pay this, something bad's going to happen, right? And actually, honestly, this first one we looked at is less about that. They don't even create that much urgency. They just make it seem like a just run-of-the-mill fee you need to pay.
Yeah, here's
right?
your invoice.
They're a little more low-key.
Yeah.
Right? Some of the other scammers, when we start looking at some of these others, really do ratchet up the scare tactics. These guys actually don't, but there's different ways to do this, right? Yeah, I would say, and the other one that I've had recently that is more kind of ratcheted up on the scare tactic is I've had people that say, like, there's emails or letters from some, like, and even people call, right, in this case, and they'll say something like, if you don't pay us to, like, register this trademark, it's usually one that maybe have been lapsed or whatever, maybe they gave up on it. If you don't do it, then I've got this other business and they're going to do it, and then you'll be cut out.
Oh.
What?
Like, is that really how that works, Mark Goodman?
Complete conflict of interest. If I were to imagine if you're my client and I called you and said, hey, You better pay me right now to do this trademark, or else I've got another client that's going to grab this trademark and you'll be screwed. That would be a
Ah!
good conflict of interest, right?
Oh,
And they
yeah.
represent themselves as like almost like a paralegal firm or something. I don't think they're really even paralegals, right? I had one like here's an example of somebody, one of my clients.
Well,
He got this email.
let's dig for a little truth for a second, and then
Yeah.
let's go into that. So, let's say you had a registered mark that you didn't
Mhm.
do the renewal on. What really happens with that in reality?
If you don't renew it, trademark is based on use in commerce, right?
Right.
We've talked about that in some of our other episodes. And one of the great things about trademark compared to even, let's say, patent or even copyright is trademarks can last forever, right? So as long as you
Right.
keep renewing them, I mean, just think of old companies. Northwestern Mutual has been
Yeah.
around since the 1830s or something. They still have their trademark, I'm sure, right? And so that's one of the great benefits of trademarks, but you do have to keep doing these renewals. If you don't do a renewal, let's say you're not in business anymore. Well, then you don't have the right to keep the trademark anyway. So it just
Right.
lapses, right? But if you are in business, you got to make sure that you're taking care of that.
You keep doing
Um,
that. And can somebody, come in and scoop it up later if it's gone
So
inactive?
in trademarks, the answer is yes, but they would have to prove that they're using the mark in commerce now, right? And again, it's different. I often contrast with my patent stuff. Where patenting, it's like you couldn't do that, right? I
Right.
actually get that question in patent sometimes. People say, "Well, this patent's expired, so can I go patent it?" No, right? You didn't invent it, right? And the whole point is to reward actual invention of stuff. And furthermore, it's public domain once it's expired.
Published.
That's
Yeah.
part of the idea of patent laws. We give you this monopoly to your invention for a while, and then after that, it becomes part of the public domain so that we can advance technology overall, right, in our
Right.
society, which is cool. But in the case of trademarks, yes, you could theoretically. I've actually had clients do that where, like, oh, this one's expired. I want to use it. We've done it. We can do
Okay.
that, right? If something's gone. But yeah, getting back to some of these other scams, man, like
Yeah.
this is one I get. So I got a client that got an email. I'm reading this a little. In case we do not receive a response that they've been badgering them to pay money, we will move forward with the other applicant. Once we've filed it, you're requested to discontinue using the business name in commerce. And then they say
Wow.
you have
Okay.
all rights to file a petition with the Trademark Appeal Board. I mean, like they try to make it seem like official, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That one
Before that, there was
sounds like
like,
you need to do something.
right. This is a message about this trademark. I'm not going to name it here, right? Which is abandoned. We've recently received a new request from another applicant. No legitimate company would, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to call somebody and be like, I just got another thing. You better pay me now, or
Yeah.
else you're going to be forever barred from this thing, right? They're probably fishing for people that have let something lapse or whatever. So they're nervous about it. And then but they still want to do it, right? In
Yeah.
some of my clients, it's like, well, I'm not doing this anymore anyway, right? Whereas this one, the person might have wanted to do it, right? And we almost did like an engagement to do a demand letter or something and correspond with it, but I just told them, just it's a scam. You don't need to pay me that
Yeah.
money.
So,
Yeah.
what are some of the signs in these emails or letters that should start raising red flags for somebody?
Like I said, the first one is that it's not coming from your attorney or your attorney's not copied in. And now, one thing to understand, something from the USPTO, it's uspto.gov, right? Not .com or anything else, right?
Right.
If it is something official. So that would be one sign. And really anything it's like that is just asking you to pay money, right? When you do a trademark, all your money is paid up front. There are certain other fees, but those fees just you'll pay them directly to the trademark office. The trademark office will never ask you for money directly, right?
Mm.
Now, certain things you need to pay money when you file. So for instance, let's say you did give an example, an intent to use application, which is where you haven't used the trademark in commerce yet, but you're going to. And then later you follow up with proof of use in commerce. When you file that second document, yes, there's another fee of like $150 a class. Okay, well, but you're going to pay when you file that. I'm assuming if you're doing it on your own. And again, if you're using an attorney, the attorney will handle all of this stuff with the payments and collect money from you, and that's it, right? So you just stay with that. And then if you have an attorney on the trademark case, just absolutely run the document by the attorney before you cut a check to someone or give somebody a
Yeah.
credit card number that has something to do with your trademark app.
Well, that brings me to my next question, actually, which is, let's say you got one of these, somebody in your payables office actually paid them. Is there anything you can do to recover that?
So I would say if it's a credit card, do the credit card dispute process, right? If it's a check, maybe you could stop payment on the check as soon as possible, right? But outside of that, I mean, yeah, of course you could sue them, right? But for the amount of money they're taking, it's just not going to be worth the
The,
cost and effort of that,
yeah,
generally speaking. So that's why it's just important to be so careful up front on this. And yeah, and you're right to note accounts payable department, because companies, for my individual clients that are real small businesses, they're more likely to go to me and say what's going on. Where it's been closer is where I have a little bit larger business client, and they're like, well, our payables got this, right? And they think it's just a bill, and they just
yeah. And
a
away it
check out.
goes. Yeah.
Yeah, another thing for the trademark, pay it, right?
When we're looking at these things, I guess the next question is, are there official notices that people sometimes mistake for scams, or scams that particularly look deceptively real?
So, I mean, I think it's less of a problem. Usually you can tell because an official notices, again, it should be from. Well, here's a way to handle this if you're in a situation where you're not sure about something, right? You can go to, like I mentioned, everything in trademark is publicly available, right? So tsdr.uspto.gov. You go to that site. It's a great site because it's so efficient. You just put in your registration or serial number in there, right? And you immediately have access, pretty smooth access to all the documents in the case. You don't even need to pay any money or set up a login or any of that friction, right?
Nice.
And so that's good and bad. It's good for you because it's convenient to use, but it's bad because that's why there's so many scams, right? 'Cause
Right.
so can anyone else, right? Go do that. And that's part of why I mentioned there aren't as many of these scams in patent, although I'm seeing some of them crop up now. But it's not as common because the patent system is a little more friction, right? You
Hmm.
can get access to all the documents, but you'd have to set up a login and an account, and it's not like bang bang, you've got it. Right. So
Yeah.
just even that little bit of a friction, I think maybe is relevant enough for the scammers. But what you could do is go to that site, put your registration or serial number in, look at the documents, and then you can see if it's real. Because if it's not in there,
Yeah.
it's not part of the actual trademark file. So then you
Yeah.
know something's fishy.
So that'd be the first source you recommend people go to. Are there other trusted websites or tools that someone could use to verify?
So, well, I mean, I think the first thing was go to your lawyer, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have one, then yes, I would go to this site, and then you'd see that. There are some you could call the trademark office, actually call them
Yeah.
directly, right?
Yeah. From the
Um,
number that you look up for
Yeah.
them, not from anything that's in the document that was
Right,
sent to
exactly.
you.
So
Yeah.
it's very similar to the other Nigerian scams in that regard, like where the best practice is, like if somebody calls you and says they're the police and you need to pay them a bunch. First of all, that'll never happen, right? But
Yeah.
again, hang up and call the actual police and say, "Is there a problem?" Right?
Right.
And they'll be, "What are you talking about?" Right? Because that's a common scam out there. Now we're getting out of the scope. It's similar in this intellectual property.
Space.
So
Yeah.
let's see again, uspto.gov. I mean, we could link to it or whatever. There's some legitimate phone numbers you can call. You could talk to somebody. I don't know how much hold time there is, but at least you'd get to somebody. They're not too terrible there compared to a
Okay.
lot of agencies. And then you could figure out what's going on.
How do you protect your clients from fraud, and what simple steps do you recommend for them staying safe?
Well, I mean, obviously, whenever the fact that we have, a good working relationship, they know to talk to me first, right? And one of the practices since this has happened so much, I try to remind everyone when they sign on and start, like this is possibly going to happen. So just be, aware of it and, think about it, right? And make sure that
Absolutely.
you don't just blindly pay anything.
Thank you for sharing all of this amazing information with us today, Mark. This is very helpful.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate it. And like I said, this episode itself will be one of the simple tools. Just listen to this and you'll understand. You'll be able to figure out what's going on when you get something.
Absolutely. And thank you for tuning in to Inherently Distinctive with attorney Mark Goodman. To connect with Mark, visit goodmanlawnevada.com and be sure to like, subscribe, review, and share with those you care about.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.